All right, hey folks, Wes here. Thanks so much for checking out the last video that we did. Seems to have been doing well, so I'm gonna keep going with it today. Hopefully, I'm gonna maybe do all of this. We'll see how much time it takes. I don't want to make a video too long. First, I want to is make an Express server, so this thing will actually run continuously without exiting when it's finished. Second, I want to figure out how to save the data to a database. I usually use this little package here called DiskDB, and what it does is it's just like a lightweight. It's kind of like MongoDB, which I like to use for a lot of my projects. But anytime I'm doing something sort of silly like this, or just really small, I don't want to actually have to have the overhead of hosting a MongoDB. So I'll just use this, and it just saves the data to JSON files and gives you this nice little API. However, I found this other one called LowDB. I've never used it before, but it seems to be much more popular. This DB, I've never had an issue with it, but it hasn't been updated in a while. There are a couple issues that could be an issue down the road. So I'm going to try check out this one, which is the same idea. It's got adapters for saving to JSON files, and it's built on Lodash, which I think is pretty cool. So never used it before. We'll try it out. And then finally, I want to set up a cron job, which will allow us to just like let the server run, and every hour or so, this thing will just scrape itself and run those commands for us without us having to manually do it. So first thing I want to do is this right here, this function. I'm fetching the HTML and awaiting it and then getting the followers. What I want to do is to go back into my scraper and make two little functions that will just get the counts directly, so I can put them in a nice tidy function. So I'm going to export a sync function, get Instagram count, and we'll give ourselves another one called get Twitter account, and then I'm going to put this in there. So let's do the Instagram one first. What did I actually deleted it? Here we go. So take this out, and I'm going to just await. And I'm going to name this HTML. And then I'm going to take that out. Just pass it the HTML. And then I'm just going to return the Instagram count. You could also just return the promise directly. It would work exactly the same way, but I kind of like to do this just in case if in between here I would like to ever massage that data or anything that needs to happen. Next one here, let's move all these two pieces over as well. So the Twitter promise gets turned into just HTML. It's a wait. And then the Twitter followers gets past HTML. And we'll just call that Twitter count. And we return Twitter count. Now I think we just need to import these two little functions. So we go back to our index.js and replace those. And then up here, we just say const I promise and const T promise. Actually, we can do this even better. Const I count and T count is equal to await promise dot all, and pass that in array. And we'll just pass it our two functions. Look at that. Then we should just be able to console log I count and T count. Still works great. Okay, cool. Now we just have these nice little functions that we don't have to fetch the HTML inside of that. That's going to be helpful when we move to Express. So what I'm going to do is get rid of the calling of Go, because we're going to just put this into an API call in just a second. Then we are going to import Express from Express. And I'm going to go to another app that I built. This is a little sniper application I built um, to to scrape deals off of Kijiji and Facebook. It's kind of like the Craigslist of Canada. And on the back end, I use something similar on an Express server. So got that. There we go. App. We create a new Express app. And I'm going to skip these two for now. I don't think I need those in this specific use case. We might need it when we build a front end, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Now I'm going to say app.get. We'll just say scrape. So anytime someone goes to the scrape, request, response, next. And when somebody scrapes it, we are going to just console log scraping. And let's move this up here. And we'll just res.json, the account, and the t count. This needs to go up here. The getHTML is no longer used in this async function. Oh, the other thing is that this callback here needs to be async if we want to be able to use await inside of it. And we could put this into a controller if we wanted to, but I'm just going to leave it like that because it's unnecessary. Then finally at the bottom, we'll app.listen on port. What port should we use? If you use 3333 or 3000, you have no imagination. Let's just do 2093. And then when that runs, we would just console.log example app running on port. I think we can get the deets here. Deets.port. Let's see. Does that work? Cannot read port of undefined. What is in deets here? Why is my console log so slow? Deets. Undefined. I thought the app.listen would pass you information about what port you're running on. Sometimes people will just hard code it, but like I did right here. Let's take a look. App.listen callback. That's what we want. Oh, you can pull it from the server. Server app.listen port 3000. Oh yeah, you got to pull it from the server. So there is no details passed. Does that work? Server is not defined. Oh, it's because this app is not defined. This is probably an old version of Express. Screw it. Not worth it. I'm sure we could figure it out. Sure, someone will tell me in the comments, but we'll just run it like that. Okay, and we go to localhost 2093. And now, if we go to /scrape, there we go. We have a little JSON endpoint that pulls back our data. Good. So let's look at our make an Express server. Check. Don't ask me what app that is, what spot it's called. It's called Rocket for OS X. You can ask me that. Next is save the data to the database. So let's figure out how to use this lowdb. I'm going to go here, kill it, npm install lowdb. Okay. Actually, while we're at it, let's get nodemon running too, because nodemon will allow us to reboot the server whenever we make a change to the server itself. So if we open our package JSON, npm install nodemon as a dev dependency, we'll open up our package JSON. Let's see, how do we run nodemon with this require flag? Nodemon with flags. Is it just simply nodemon? Let's try it. So does that still work? Oh, it still works. So nodemon will just pass that flag. If nodemon doesn't understand what one of the flags is, it just pass it onto the node executable. And that's good. Okay, so it still works. Now, if I were to make a change here, add exclamation mark, it restarts itself. Perfect. Okay. Then we want to go into our index.js and set up this database, which is here. So we will file sync is what we want. And we want lowdb. And this is going to yell at me because our relative imports come second. Good. Then it says to make an adapter. And we should make a database.json. Okay. And we make a database like this. And we should probably put that in its own file. So let's make a new file called db.js. And let's move this, all of this, into here. We'll export default function setup or get db. Needs to probably be a relative path now. This is called low. And we'll return the DB. Okay. Now we can just import that database in here. Import DB from libdb. When we start the thing, if I were to console log the database, what does that show me? There we go. That's our database right there. Beautiful. Okay, now it says set some defaults required if your JSON file is empty. Okay, let's run that on our database bootstrap. Restart it. If we go into that DB JSON, there's nothing in there. Maybe we have to save something. Let's try save something. Let's try just their example here. You can restart nodemon by just typing rs into the terminal. There's no data in there. Why? So I think this actually doesn't need to be its own function. It will just bootstrap itself when I require the file. We put some defaults in there, and let's keep that in there as well, just to see if it works. And then we'll export default, the actual database itself. We'll go into our index.js. And yeah, see, now we're console logging the database. You see the entire thing. Is there data in here? No. If we restart it, does it get data? Still no. I wonder if the relative path, is not what it wants. Let's just give it straight db.json. Oh, it's restarting infinitely. And oh, look at every time it reruns, it's adding a new item. And the reason why is because we have NodeMon set up to rerun this import every single time. So obviously we don't want to put that in there. Give that a save. However, this still does restart it every single time. And I think it's because this is actually writing to the JSON file. So what we can do, I think, is we can get our NodeMon to ignore JSON files. There we go. And now it only runs once. So we're ignoring JSON, and we could even make that just ignore db.json. So in case you do want to track other files, let's actually make that db.json. Beautiful. All right, so we got this db.json here. So what happens if we clear this out and restart the app? Does it give us some defaults? Beautiful. Okay, so that's good. We got this up and running. We don't want posts, but we want, what should we call those? We'll call them scrapes. And we don't necessarily care. Maybe we should switch up the scrapes. So we'll call it Twitter, and we'll have another one called Instagram. And we'll set that to be that, and we don't need this count here. Okay, there we go. And I'll start it one more time. There we go. We've got our empty database here. All right, database is up and running. Now, the third thing, or the second 2.5, is to actually save that data into the database. So let's go into our handler here. This is where we have the data. We should be able to say db.get Twitter .push, and we're going to push an object where let's call it the date is date.now, and that will give us a timestamp right now. I like to use date.now instead of a formal timestamp because it's really easy to sort them because it's just a number at the end of the day, and you can convert it to a true date if you need to. So push the date, and the count is going to be the Twitter count. And then we also want to call .write on it. Can we do both of them? Let's just try it with Twitter for a quick second. So app is running. If I visit my scrape, it's scraping. There we go. It's putting it into Twitter. That looks good. Let's do the same for our Instagram. I wonder if I can just like chain.get Instagram.push. Instagram count, and then just do one write. Because if I write twice to the file, that seems a little unnecessary. So let's restart. No, that didn't work. Okay, so we'll go back here. Do I have to call a write here and then call db again? Let's get rid of this. Clear it out. Start it again. There's our empty. That looks good. All right, so now let's go and set up a cron job. Right now, all of this logic is tied to somebody hitting a URL. So it's not really reusable in any way if we were wanted to run that without it. And we don't want to like trigger a fake visit to this URL to actually trigger it. We want to put the sort of the logic that happens here into its own function. So I'm just going to copy all of this. I'm going to leave this in here. We could make like a separate function and abstract it into one old function, but I'm just going to leave it as we have right here. And we're going to go into scraper.js and we will make a function called run cron. And when someone should run the cron, we will go ahead and get the two counts. Those don't need to be imported because they're in the same file. Then we do need to import that database. So import the database from database. And we will push them into the data. We'll push them in here. And then we will simply just console log, done. Okay, that looks good. And then we'll go back to our thing here. I don't actually want to save it on, because I want to get like consistent data, not just when I visit the URL here. So the scrape URL is not going to save to the database. It will just give me a live count. Maybe we can like factor that into the UI somehow. So let's get that. And actually, we do need the JSON. Okay, so we have the run cron that we want. Then what we want to do is install that node cron. So let's get out of here, npm install node cron. And the way that node cron works is that you write these cron tabs, which specify how frequently you want something to run. So let's go into our lib and make a new file called cron.js and import cron from node cron. Did I npm install that correctly? No, I didn't. Shoot. Where did npm uninstall node cron? And npm install node-cron. There we go. And I always like corn tab, which will help you decipher. So let's do ours every minute of every hour. Oh no, every minute would be a star. One would be at the first minute of every hour. So star every minute, every hour, every day of every month of every day of the week. That's star, 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 star. Looks good. We'll obviously change that in just a minute. And how do we hook up a node cron? So cron.schedule this. And then let's just run a function. Now let's go full on. I was going to console log something, but I have faith in this run cron function. So import run cron from scraper. And we could either run it inside this anonymous function here, or we could just pass it directly. I'm going to do it like this just so I can do something like this. Console log time running the cron. And then in order to sort of like make this cron work, we simply just need to import this file into when our application boots up, similar to how we did that with our database. So we'll just import lib cron. You notice I'm not importing anything. I'm just importing the file. And simply by importing the file, we'll make this cron job kick itself off. So I'm going to start our server now, and I'll speed this up, obviously, because we don't want to wait here for 10 minutes to see if it works. Hey. Okay, so it turned to 10:03. We ran the cron, and then look at that data for Twitter and Instagram just updated. 3 followers, none on Instagram. No difference. Okay, so we did it. I think we made our Express server. Check. We saved the data to our database. Check. And we set up our cron job. I think that was enough for today. What I would like to do next is to make some sort of endpoint here where we can fetch the data that's in our database based on whatever query that we have, and then display it to the user, maybe with a graph, maybe just with a table. We'll see. I probably want to use React for the front end, and then past that, we'll have to figure out how to deploy it. I don't know if there's other stuff you want to see as well. Let me know in the comments. So, I could really take this either way. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Let me know what you think. We'll see you in the next one.